Hello and welcome to another episode of SoFly. It is mid-February, and we're back recording another episode. My name is Mitch, and we've got Aldo.
Hey, everybody.
And we've got Yilma.
Yeah, hi.
So insane. We're back recording another episode today. We're excited to be interviewing somebody else. I know last podcast we just sat the four of us talking about flies, so it's nice to have a fresh face on here. But today we're talking to Jordan Pockett. Jordan is a Southern Ontario fly fishing guide and head guide at a Perfect Drift Guide Company. Jordan was born and raised in Southern Ontario, but actually learned to fly fish at a young age on the east coast of Canada, chasing Atlantic salmon and brook trout. Now he guides for all species of resident trout, steelhead bass, and other warm water species, again, down here in Southern Ontario. But today, he is on the show. Jordan, welcome.
Thanks, guys, for having me. Pleasure to be on the show. Long-time listener, and glad to be a guest.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on. I know, Aldo, you guys got out on the river this fall, or winter, I guess.
Yeah, I know it seems like every show we mention Josh on the fly more and more, but it's just kind of because I spend a lot of time fishing with him because he has a lot of free time to fish. He's got like this idyllic life where he works 5 days on and works 5 days off. And since school, anyway, whatever. Josh was, getting too much into it, but Josh was like, hey, do you want to come out with Jordan? And I've seen pictures of Jordan on Instagram, of course. He's at On the Fly Rod. And he said, we're putting together a little drift on the drift boats, on the inflatable drift boats, and I was like, hell yeah, on the Nautilus Saga, which I'd never fished before, personally, especially not for steelhead.
Yeah,
and,
neither me.
And it was great. Jordan had myself, Idis, who was on our last show, and Josh out that first time, and then the second time we were joined by Justin. It was fun. We had 2 days on the river, and we caught a lot of fish. It was awesome.
Yeah.
It looked amazing. I mean,
the pictures are great.
I mean, we'll get all it. We'll get more into your guiding now and all of that kind of stuff. But why don't we just kick things off like we do normally with our guests and just talk a little bit about how you got into fly fishing?
Yeah.
Like how did it start for you?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So
how'd you get into it?
I mean, like, I think it kind of goes back, like, like most kids, just, it wasn't even fly fishing. It was just like, before I could walk, it was like rod in hand off the dock with my dad, kind of thing. Yeah. And then when I was the age of 7, my grandfather and my uncle, who are the fly fishers in my family, they wanted to take me to Labrador. My grandfather had a stroke, and so a while back, and so he's passed now, but it was kind of always one of his goals to kind of do that. So we figured, like, still pretty young, but it's, a good enough age where, he can remember everything. And so my first time was 7 years old, took a trip to Labrador with my father. My dad also doesn't fly fish, so hence kind of learning it out there. My dad doesn't know how to fly fish. He still can. He's learning. He'll come. But he prefers to center pin and stuff like that. So, So I took the trip out there. My first fish was a 4-pound brookie on a bomber, on the fly.
Jeez.
Yeah. So, you can really only go downhill from there, but But yeah,
no doubt.
Yeah, that's kind of the start. And then, like I said, like my dad didn't really know how to fly fish, couldn't really either. So every summer I would, or even springs and whatnot, I'd just take trips out there, fish a lot on the Marguerite, and then a couple of other mainland rivers that hold browns, brookies, and even rainbows out there. People highly underestimate.
Wow, rainbows.
The rainbows are hard to get out there, but they have a healthy population of browns that people don't know about out there. So,
really?
Oh yeah. So
wow. I mean, that's kind of an amazing first place to go fly fishing. Labrador is usually like a little bit higher up on the bucket list for most people.
Yeah, exactly right. So funny thing though, like the reason why it kind of all came together too is my grandfather, longtime friend of the lodge, Northern Lights Lodge in Labrador. He would go there every summer. He's got pictures of him feeding black bears and stuff right from the resort and all that.
Wow.
So yeah, it's a special place. Looking to go back. I haven't been back since. Looking to go back sometime soon though. So yeah, it's a pricey one.
4 pound. Yes, it is. It is, yeah.
Yeah,
But
just a little bit.
it is. It sounds like such a special place. And I mean, getting a 4-pound brook trout, getting a 4-pound anything,
Yeah.
but let alone a brookie. is
Yeah,
pretty wild.
I got a mount of it on my wall. I can send you guys a picture of it too. So
Oh, cool.
yeah,
That's crazy.
yeah,
That's so cool.
Yeah, they
Definitely want to see that.
yeah. There's a story behind it too. Like when they want, like my grandfather, hardcore Newfie from Labrador, or lived in Labrador. He wanted a skin mount of the whole thing, so he had a guy out there do it for him. He knew him, but he screwed up on the skin mount, then did a fiberglass mount, and then in transport, the tails broke. So,
Oh gosh. Oh man,
yeah,
eh?
yeah. So, there's like a whole thing with it, but yeah, I'll send you guys a picture. It's all good.
So the one you have now on your wall is the fiberglass one with the broken tail?
Yeah, because he messed up on the skin mount, so I guess it kind of just went in the garbage, unfortunately, which is it's quite a shame, right? Especially when you're talking about keeping the fish for the mount and you don't even get it. But it is what it is. It's on my wall. I look at it all the time. I look at it every day and get the memories. So that's all that counts for me too, right? So.
Oh hell yeah!
So you came back from the East Coast as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
You had hooked yourself into fly fishing. Where did it go from there? Like you started taking the fly rod out more often, or what happened?
Yeah, so I grew up in Georgetown. It must have been around the age of 10. My dad was just like, enough is enough. Like you can't just go out east every year and learn how to fish and kind of practice like that. So funny enough, he had contacted Graham Bristow of the owner of a Perfect Drift Guide company. And so now I go from working for Graham or I guess being a client of Graham's to now working for Graham. So I've known Graham for well over 10 years. And so we've always had a great relationship, and he's essentially taught me how to fish over the years. And then not only that, after grade 12, I moved to Inglewood with my family through college. So I'm a 2-minute walk right from the credit there. And so I had
awesome.
endless time to explore and kind of go from there. And then, that area also being Graham's home waters, it was kind of match made in heaven, and, just kind of went from there.
Inglewood's such a pretty
right
area
on.
too. Like that's
It
a pretty
is,
little town to grow up in.
Yeah, it really is. And that's the whole thing, like being, coming out of high school, going into college, it kind of sucks because there's not too many kids around your age. But I mean, when you're looking to fish, you don't really care to see anybody else out there anyway. So it works.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
And so you were being guided by Graham at that point.
Yeah.
And for people that don't know, Graham is, like you said, is a big guide down here in Southern Ontario. I think a lot of people listening would either know Graham or even maybe fish with him. But what was it like being guided by Graham? Like, how was that? How did you find, the experience? Because it's interesting because now you're a guide. So what was it like being the client?
Yeah, it's really interesting. And I think just being the client and now being the guide, I think that's something that I tell a lot of my clients now. And just, especially with it being, it was a long time ago, it was over a decade. But, when you really think about it, it's not that much time at all. And, I tell all my clients beginning, we all start in the same place. I'm a guide now, but at one point I was the kid hiring guides because I didn't know what to do. We all got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And we all start in the same place, right? So I think that's something that I really take from it. And then also just being, Graham's always been a Southern Ontario legend. So being the age of 10, going up into the park and just fishing for, 10-inch browns, back then, just kind of learning how to indicator nymph or Euro nymph or, learn how to dry fly fish. You didn't really know what you were kind of dealing with until I was later down the road, 16 or 14, 15, 16, 17. And I'm just like, man, this guy is an Ontario legend, and he can go and catch a 20-inch brown every day. And, and then obviously, especially when you use a guide so much, they can open up and they kind of unlock their vault. Obviously that goes with saying, as the progression of the client too, right? Everything needs to kind of come in the right place, right time. So, I was really fortunate to spend a lot of time with Graham, and learn an absolute ton from him. So
he was your mentor.
Right. So you're saying he opened up more and more because you guys were fishing so much together.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And that's the whole thing is especially even for us when we take our take our clients out, in an 8-hour day, there's only so much to learn, and it's really just the last thing that you want to do is information overload, because then it scrambles everything up, and then you go from giving them too much information, which actually means they learn less. So
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Take less away.
Yeah, so that's also how we see a lot of like repeat clients too, and then also just providing like great service and whatnot. And that was something that Graham's done for just absolutely years, right? So
Yeah. So you were fishing with Graham, and then at some point you became the mentor, became the teacher. You joined the guide.
Yes.
How did that happen?
So
wait, that didn't make
No,
sense.
no, the student
That doesn't make sense at all.
the student became
The mentee? I don't know what the student became.
The student became the
teacher.
teacher.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, exactly right. I wouldn't say
Yeah.
I wouldn't say master. I still think he's got that on me, but I would call myself a teacher. So I kind of slowed down the whole fishing with Graham when I went to college. I just didn't have the time. I went away. I went to Sir Sanford
Right.
Fleming in Lindsay. I took 2 years of fish and wildlife and a year of outdoor education, which is essentially a guiding program.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's essentially a guiding program in itself, which is super fantastic.
Cool.
And then I only did the year instead of the 2. I guess that's all I needed. And then I kind of just came home and then puttered around, kind of doing some other jobs here or there, and just, was trying to find something in the field. But unfortunately, the field's pretty tough these days. And then kind of COVID came around too, and just kind of screwed everything up. And then so it was just kind of one day I just said enough is enough, and I just cold called Graham and just said, hey, like, this is something that I want to do full time. And I've done some things part time prior to all this too. Like Graham had run into me on the rivers guiding friends and family members. Not that that's really, guiding, but he could kind of see glimpses of it, and especially fishing through him or fishing with him for so many years, he kind of knew what it all entailed.
Yeah.
And he's just, I cold called him one day, and he's just like, yeah, sure, love to have you. And he threw me right into steelhead season there last year, and didn't look back since. So. Yeah.
Wow. So last year was 2021 was your first like full-time guide season?
Yeah. That's when I kind of gave up my other full-time jobs and went full force into guiding and haven't looked back. Yeah. So
I think it's that
That's
pandemic
pretty
thing.
awesome.
It's that.
yeah.
I think so. I think you're one of many who've probably changed their life, or at least not changed their life, but like, it's that near-death experience. They're just like, okay, F this, I'm doing this now. This is really what I want to do.
Flip it all up because
Yeah. It'd be kind of like a. So I mean, I used to interview and hire people, and you're not allowed to ask people's age, but I think this is okay. So just to put it in perspective for our listeners, how old are you?
I am 25 years old. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So like, why I'm saying this is now having spent 2 days on the river with you, or even just like glancing your Instagram.
Yeah.
So for so young, and you're fishing, maybe not your fishing career, but maybe your professional fishing career, like, the knowledge base is amazing.
Yeah.
Like we learned so much that day, so which is cool. Like I think maybe learning from Graham, you kind of, because sometimes you go with guides, or we're lucky enough to go out with a lot of guides, and it's just sometimes, especially in the saltwater, it's like 9 o'clock, 60 feet, but there's no actual like, okay, why are we doing this? Whereas like I felt on that river, I learned a lot about not only the Nottawa saga, but also steelhead in general.
Yeah.
So I think like an emphasis on education is super cool. Like Ian Troop is a lot like that.
Yeah.
Matt Martin's a lot like that.
Absolutely.
Like the why behind what
The why,
and
absolutely.
And I think that's something that a lot of people don't understand. And I think, when you really break down the why am I doing this, or why am I succeeding and why am I not succeeding, that's something that's taken me to new levels over the years, is always questioning it, always realizing, what you can do better, and just kind of breaking down everything, and not just going out there and making your casts and just kind of thinking, oh, a trout eats a nymph, and that's all I need to do, right? Because that's not all you need to do. You need to present it. You need to find the lane in which the fish is feeding in, and this and that. There's so many different things, as opposed to just kind of hucking it and chucking it. And you always have to break down, why am I doing this? Every single move that I make with the fly rod, or I get my clients to do, I tell them every single thing you do is with a purpose, right? So
Right.
Yeah.
So when you were getting into guiding and you started guiding for the first time, like what, you're talking about service and how you're different. Like, what were you going into guiding with a pre notion of how you wanted to be and how the kind of guide you wanted to be? Like, what was that?
Yeah. Again, like learning so much from Graham, and not only that, I've been very fortunate enough with my childhood where I've had many guided trips. I've done saltwater. I've spent lots of time on the East Coast, and so I've spent lots of time kind of from not just in Ontario, fishing, and it's given me a whole lot of insight on the good and the bad, and what it really takes to kind of please the clients. Everyone kind of thinks that being a guide is just being the best guy on the river, and it's not necessarily that. Do you got to be good? Absolutely. Do you got to be one of the best? Absolutely. But you also got to be fantastic with people, right?
Yeah,
not
that's
every
the
day
thing.
not every day the fish are going to cooperate, and when that happens, you got to provide the clients with a great day, laughs, jokes, stories, flies, knowledge. Why are the fish not cooperating today, right? What's affecting them? Give them the breakdown, give them the knowledge and all that too, right? So there's so much just about going out and getting your clients a double-digit day, because as great and as fantastic as that is, I've heard horror stories where we got lots of fish, but the guide was not a very nice person, right? So, that's kind of really, what it's about. Like, I think for us, if for every trip that I take out, our biggest priority is, health and safety. Nobody got injured. No one fell in. No one got a hook in them. Anything like that. And then, if you get a hook,
you haven't taken Yoma out. That's what.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I usually tell them if they put a hook in me, it's okay. Just don't put a hook in each other. I've had to unfortunately keep an egg fly in the back of my head for a day, and then get it out when I get home.
God.
But you stop noticing it after about an hour. So.
Battle wounds.
Battle scars.
Yeah.
You stop noticing it after an hour.
Yeah, but like health and safety, and then next comes the education, and next comes the fish, right? So, and I think like it's always fantastic to go out and get a bunch of fish, but I also find there's days where you get beginners, people who have never fished before, they go out and get a bunch of fish, but then they don't necessarily they know what they did to get the fish. Right, they just know they went out and got a bunch of fish, and because they were so starstruck by all the action, they don't really retain some of the information. Right, so usually, like I find, a couple fish, 3, 4, 5, 6 fish, and then a ton of knowledge. That's like the best day for
that's the right mix.
Yeah.
That's your ideal kind of day.
Yeah, exactly, right. And then that way too, like not that we're ever fishing, like around other people too, right? But like there are times where you run into other people or other guys on the river, and there's lots of room for everybody to go, and there's lots of fish around, right?
Yeah. So how many days were you guiding when you started? Like how many days?
So I was doing either 6 or 7 days in a row. So I think there was a couple like 13, 14, 16 day stretches there. Over the 3.5 months. And so, especially when you're doing like 2-person big boat days every day. I think there was it was like a 13-day stretch or whatever. And it was my last day, and I was putting the boat up on the trailer, and like my arms like slipped. I'm just like, nope, I'm good. And then just,
well, that's it. Like, that's a lot of days in a row.
Oh, yeah.
You just started. Were you like, this is good? Or were you like, what did I get myself into?
Yeah, like...
Well, I mean, I guess you liked it.
Yeah, I love it. And, like, I think, like, especially, like, in the beginning, I think there was about a month into the season where I was just sitting on my drift boat with my clients, and I was just thinking to myself, like, there's no way that this is how I make my money, right? And so it's, like, a beautiful October day at the end, and... like
crazy.
Are starting to come down and this and that, right? So, and like, there's nothing better than that. I absolutely love it, but like whenever you see like those memes on Instagram of like guide thoughts or whatever, like you kind of get a better appreciation for them, because we do get beat up a little bit, but we love we love it.
It's a hard job.
Yeah,
it's a hard job,
Yeah, and then also it's just like. And then there's also the whole behind the scenes, right? Coordinating all the trips and always emailing. And it's not just the 8 hours on the river. It's, the 45 hours before the client shows up, the 45 minutes after they leave, put the gear away, emails, and that.
Yeah.
But, like, It's nice because, you know, I get the couple months in the winter where I just kind of lay low, tie flies, and it's nice, right? So I work hard, but then I get to play hard in the winter, I guess, too, right? And in the summer, so.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So just so people know, you do guided walk and wades and drift boat trips, right?
Yeah. And so that's the best part about kind of, I think, you know, starting to work for Graham and being with a Perfect Drift is if it's in Southern Ontario and you can think about it, we can probably accommodate it. We do walk and wade, and we do, I believe, every species, I would say, except for panfish targeting and stuff like that, right? But
no bluegill days?
Yeah, no, not yet. I mean, I don't know, like
That'd be kind of fun.
Yeah, I got a boat up on Georgian Bay, so I don't know. Maybe I might get my center console boat out and start taking trips out there. But yeah, no, we do steelhead, browns, rainbows, brookies, bass, pike, muskie, and carp as well. So
Carp. I did carp with Matt.
Yeah. So Matt, I've been talking to Matt a lot about carp. So when I say we do carp, it'll probably come from Matt. But So him and I are going to go out and explore, I think, some early season waters this year, and he's expecting to do a lot with carp this year. And
nice.
Yeah. So he both of us are really excited for him on that. So
I mean, yeah.
So you actually have some pretty big news.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. No, absolutely.
So not only do you
news, what are we talking about here?
Were you Graham's client?
Yeah.
And then his employee.
Yes.
But now you're his successor?
I am, yeah. So over the month of January, basically Graham and I came to some terms, and I'm now the owner of a Perfect Drift Guide company. And Graham's still kicking around.
The mentor becomes the teacher. The mentor becomes the teacher.
The mentor.
Nice. That's exciting. That's so crazy.
Yeah. So it's crazy to think, and you know, like I know, like the whole, like with the age thing and this and that, you know, it seems like a lot, but Graham's still kicking around in the background. A little bit through the transition, like, you know, it's still me. I'm the owner now, but you know, he's still helping me out a bit in the background for the next year, and then he'll be off in the wind and enjoying the rest of his life. So
wow, that's
awesome.
Amazing.
That's amazing.
Yeah. That's so exciting.
Yeah, and, you know,
that's incredible.
Yeah, and I think kind of like the whole timing was right, and you know, he had said that. You know, he thinks big things are going to come. And I think also with Graham, you know, being the person that he was, like, he didn't have to prove himself at all. You know, everyone knew what he was. And so I think in his, you know, the last kind of years, he didn't necessarily, you know, reach or he didn't promote the business as much as he could because he was just happy doing with what he was doing. And that's about it. So, yeah, you know, there's some fresh eyes, and, you know, he's still a part of it. He's still making sure everything's neat and tidy. But we're really looking to kind of grow and expand. And, you know, like, he didn't really touch too many of the warm water species. He did when he was, you know, a little bit younger. In the last couple of years, like, the back was bad. And so, you know, he kind of slowed down there. So we're looking to kind of kick all that stuff back up again, and whatnot.
Good.
So, yeah.
That's wicked. That's
so exciting.
That's so exciting. You're sitting in front of a, like, fly shop.
Yeah, and this is, so I got
fly shop amount
material.
of tying materials.
I got two walls. One wall's 10 feet by 5 feet, and the other one is 10 feet by 10 feet, and it's all covered with pegboard and fly tying material.
It is a fly shop.
And you got that all from Graham.
Yeah, so, and
that's cool.
Believe it or not, I gotta up the inventory a little bit because there's a few things I don't have. So.
Oh my god.
Yeah. It's mostly the hooks. I gotta get some Tahiku hooks. So for the
all this stuff is to tie flies for your clients so that you're always stocked and you can give them flies.
Yeah, exactly too, right? And then, like, I also got like to my left here, I got also just like my tippets, you know, like my fly line cleaners and all that too. And so everything, right? So it makes it really easy for me because if there's anything that I need to restock on the morning of, you just grab it right off the wall and kind of go. So yeah,
right.
super
That's smart.
nice and organized. And I got like, I think 15 pairs of waders hanging up down here now too for clients. And
wow.
Yeah, and it's weird. Like, I was also someone who never never cared about fancy rods. If anyone knows me and knows, me from fishing at a young age, I only had 3 rods up until 2 years ago. And I had 2 Bass Pro rods and a Scott's 7-weight for steelheading. And like all my browns came on all my Bass Pro rods. So I was never one for, being like, you need the equipment to catch the fish. But now I'm sitting here and I think I got like 30, 40 rods in my house. I don't know what to do with it all. I had to go and buy all new fishing racks to kind of keep it up. And so, but it's good. We're fully stocked. And yeah, like my buddy Justin keeps telling me all the time, he's like, you got to open up a Credit River fly shop. So
that did at one time exist.
So yeah, and I know the owner. His name's Wayne, and so he lives right down the street from me. And unfortunately, he had a stroke a while back, and so he's just kind of hanging on. And I've done a whole bunch of stuff with him. He used to do a bunch of rod making and tied some of the best looking stoneflies I've ever seen. So
cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It'd be cool out of that the old ice cream shop, like ice cream.
And then there was the
exactly.
the old ice cream shop there. I think it was a Wilson's. I can't remember.
It was.
Yeah. Oh, was it?
Yeah.
It was. Yeah.
Oh, no way! So he had that idea.
Yeah.
That's the one I was referring to.
I kind of forgot about So Wayne had another one. He was more just like flies and custom rods, right in Inglewood. Yeah.
I mean,
cool.
I got, been lucky enough to go out west, and a lot of those western fly shops, they just cater to the river they're on, and it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, they obviously run a bunch of. It's mainly like a guiding operation that just so happens to have a fly shop. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But at the same time, like the things you buy in there are just for that river. Like whether it be like 4 to 6 weight rods only.
Yeah.
And like only trout flies and only the trout tippet.
Well, so
which is in a way it's kind of cool. Like imagine you're like on the credit,
cool.
you're like, "Fuck, I ran out of 5X," and you're just like, "Oh, 5X."
Yeah,
and a couple
Or
flies.
someone's
for
biking around, like on one of those ice cream bikes, but the front is full of fly stuff.
I think now with all the
Ringing the bell.
now with all the you could probably survive on shuttling people alone.
Oh,
now with all the parking being closed.
Well, and that's the whole thing too, right?
Oh my god, totally.
Yeah, and that's something that Graham always had too, which is nice. He's got all the access points for private property.
Right.
He's got lots of buddies on the river that let him park. But yeah. So it's funny that you talk about the whole like fly shops kind of catering to one thing, right? So on the Marguerite, I can't remember the name of the fly shop, but it's just like a shop. It's the Scotsman, and he just ties flies there and has everything for the Marguerite, every single piece of Atlantic salmon gear that you need. But could you buy a trout fly? No. And so my uncle called me up one day too, and in the summer, this was actually just the summer that just passed, and they were down in the lower section fishing for some salmon, and in the back of a pool there was a 30-inch sea run brown rising. And so they were, he was asking me for patterns for his buddy to tie up so they could go back and get it the next day. Because he wasn't taking any like wets or bombers or anything like that. And they couldn't go up and buy anything from the shop. So,
Shit.
yeah.
Did they get the fish?
No, they never ended up doing it. And that's the thing. So like I always go down it because there's always some nice little brook tributaries, and there's a hatchery that comes off the Marguerite there too that you can fish. And so like I always bring a couple trout flies down too, and some striped bass flies because you can do all that in the same day. And my uncle would always laugh at me when I'd bring him down, but he's laughing now because he missed out on a 30-inch sea run. So.
Oh god, that's awesome! Yeah. It does sound like a sneaky, awesome fishery out there. Like we don't hear about it all and because
you hear the west salmon,
Yeah.
Last year they struggled. It was pretty warm, no rain, but like it's probably one of my favorite places to go, and I'm so fortunate. Like I go down there every year, and I'm so fortunate enough to fish it as a yearly trip, thanks to my uncle. But it's an incredible fishery. I think for Atlantic salmon, there's too much hype over like Quebec and stuff. Nova Scotia, even mainland Nova Scotia, for fall fishing, they have fantastic rivers. Fantastic rivers. And the best thing about the Marguerite is you can go and get a brook trout and Atlantic and a striped bass all on the same day. So,
see, that sounds like literally my dream.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and it's like I think it's like 90% public water, and it's like a $60 pass to fish for a week. So
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah,
That is awesome.
it's just kind of like food, booze, and where you put your head at night, and that's all.
Yep.
That's all you
Yeah.
really need to worry about. So, it's
sick.
pretty fantastic. So now I'm gonna go next year. There's gonna be 30 new people. So.
Hey man, but at least you're helping
Nobody
the local
listens,
economy.
nobody
Well,
listens.
and that's the whole thing too, right? And I don't think they've been particularly too worried
Yeah.
about people coming because the East Coast is like I haven't been back in 2 years because of COVID. So I'm going to be going in 2022 as long as the restrictions are all open. But it's been. It was even a trip that I thought about skipping 1 year to maybe like go down south with some friends and fish some salt. And after missing it 1 year because of COVID, it's a trip that I will never miss for the rest of my life. So. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds amazing.
Yeah. So.
Striped bass, Atlantics, brickies.
Yeah, and like I think
All
like
one day.
yeah. Well, that's you got to be eager, and that's it takes a lot. But yeah, like you go for a week, you can do it all, and as I'm sure you guys have heard from a lot of your guests too, like the margaritas come up before, but there's something about Atlantics that. You can, like, I know guys that have fished that for 5 years, and it's been 5 years they haven't touched a fish, and then I've had mornings where I get 4 in one morning, right? So it makes you scratch your head.
It's just the way it is,
time.
right? It's just kind of random.
And the morning
Yeah.
that I got, like, I've had a couple of, 4, 5, 3 fish mornings or afternoons, and most of the times it's like I'm last pass in the pool behind 5, 6 guys. It's not a first pass situation, and all this.
Right.
So yeah, like it's really funny. It really makes you think, and there's just really nothing quite like it. So yeah,
That's cool. Well, it's worth checking out.
Yeah.
I mean,
no, absolutely, yeah,
got to make my way out.
yeah,
there.
yeah. I mean, yeah.
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 Well, we talk about that, right? Like spot burning and stuff like that. But
Yeah, and that's the whole thing.
Dang.
Like, I mean, I'm talking about a whole river. It's a big one. So,
Exactly.
there's lots of places, right? And I think it's like with every river. It's just like if you talk, like people always go on about like, why would you tell them about the forks of this river? I'm like, it's a fork of a river.
I know.
It's going to be good, right?
Yeah.
So,
Well, people get mad when you name the name of a river, and it's like,
yeah.
well, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And I don't know. I don't totally get it because, like you say, if you're gonna fish, you're gonna find the water, and that's just I think we should be looking for ways to kind of like foster better fishing climates as opposed to just keeping people off the water altogether.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like don't get me wrong, like there's a certain degree where it's like there's too much pressure, like you go down to Arendelle in the credit during salmon season, like that's too much pressure.
Yeah.
Let's take about 10% off there, but but like at the same time it's like the river needs friends. I can't remember where I heard that from, but it's a common saying. But
the river needs regulation.
well,
you know what I mean?
yeah,
Like when you
and
get that
that's-
kind of
and
flood.
that's the whole problem too, right? And like I think with like a lot of like our it's not even so much the regulations, it's just the policing, right? Like we only have one officer
Yeah.
for such a large region. They can only cover so much ground, and once rifle season or hunting season starts opening up in the fall, it's like we have there you won't see a person on the river. Right?
What's his
Policing
name?
it. And-
Jordan, what's his name? Because I know him. I see him
The
every
one
year. I love him.
Ontario, the one Ontario
officer.
conservation officer,
I
Bill. It's a great
I
fellow.
think his name is Alex, and I think there's a couple. I got all those contacts from Grant. So
I would love to know how your brain works, you're like
No, it's true. It's true. We basically do have one
Yeah, I was just making.
Yeah.
conservation officer. We need more.
Yeah.
It's crazy, but
yeah.
and like
Well-
that's all politics, and unfortunately, but
Yeah.
and I hope it all kind of comes around, it turns around. We'll see. The fish are kind of my my associates, so I kind of need them to run my business. So
of course.
they're your business partners.
that's it, right? So as long as they're happy, I'm happy. So so far things
Right.
things
Yeah.
are looking good. Like it's funny, like fishing the upper credit this year. I've heard lots of people talk about, oh man, it was a garbage year on the credit,
I don't.
or whatever.
Nope.
That, or
Yeah.
like even.
Not for
Like don't
me.
get me wrong, there was a slow start for the steelhead, but yeah, that's the thing. Like I think a lot of our brown trout fisheries did quite well this year. You know, especially like with COVID, there's been a lot of river accesses that have been shut down, which has been kind of given us a bit of a break. And also, this is something that I really noticed. Big shout out to Drift Outfitters. They posted their Clean Up the River earlier this spring, and there's certain sections of certain rivers that I've never seen so clean, because they're encouraging everybody every day to pick up the garbage. And it's also because of COVID. With the river shutdowns and stuff, there's not so much pollution that's being added to the river too, right? So,
right.
Yeah, that was kind of a bonus that I did see this year. So, yeah,
it was in one way,
Yeah.
in one very bad way, like the you know, for talking about the credit, like in a bad way. Obviously, we don't want to see the oh my god, the sewage facility go on the credit, but it was kind of cool to, on opening day, to drive around and see all those signs that said "Save the Credit."
yeah,
And so many people and so many of the landowners around there, like, and just people who don't fish,
yeah.
interested about the river health. Like, I think that's, I don't know, that's a cool feeling.
Yeah, no, and that's the whole thing, right? I think what a lot of people don't understand, especially when it comes to the sewage treatment plant in Erin, is that, you know, like it's a town that's wanting to propose it because they want to promote better living for the town. But what people don't understand is if you take away the fish population that's in their backyard, that ruins the appeal of the town for the people that want to live there, and they're not going to want to be there, right? Like, especially if you go down, like, you know, there's lots of property owners on the river that don't fish, but there's also lots of property owners that do fish. They might not just fish in their backyard, but they still care about it, right? Like, especially like, you're talking about like the credit and even the Grand River and all this too, right? Especially down in like the warmer sections down by like Paris and stuff. There's lots of riverside property owners that they just live and breathe it. Like, they might not be down there every day. You might not see them fishing all the time, but there's a reason they bought that property in the first place. Exactly, right? And it's because they want to see the ecosystem thrive and grow, right? So,
Totally.
Yeah, you know, and I think with the Erin, you know, as much as we all want to kind of do something about it, you know, and let's hope we do, right? I don't think it would be necessarily the end of the world. Will it have a negative impact? Absolutely. You know, but there has been, I guess, like other like treatment plants.
Examples of this happening.
Exactly, right? Other examples of it happening. And, you know, as long as they provide oxygen and a cold source of water, it's not the end of the world. Is it obviously ideal? No, we don't want anything in it, right? But
totally.
Exactly, right? And I think, like, if anything, the brook trout are going to be the biggest problem, which is obviously everything that you're seeing, right? Save the brookies, save the West Credit. That's what it's all about, because I think, you know, we know that the Browns can probably be okay. It's, again, not ideal, and it's still going to make it tougher on them, but they'll probably be okay. But the brook trout will suffer, right? So, and it's also, like, you also have... and then that's the problem, right? Is like, it's a wild, naturally reproducing brook trout population. One that's very few and far between. One that's so close to Toronto. It's like, we just can't let that one slip.
It's so unique.
Especially, and that's the thing that people don't understand, is like, there's big brookies in there too, right? They're very few and far between, and they know how to get big, but there's some big fish in there that people don't understand either too, right? So. It doesn't even matter the size. 4 inches or 40 inches, it don't matter. Fish is a fish to me, right? So
same.
Well, talking about rivers a little bit more, you know, I know we're talking about rivers and stuff like that, and whether or not it's a good thing, but can we talk a little bit about the Naughty? That's primarily a river you fish, right? I don't even want to talk about like the fishing necessarily. I just want to know more about the river itself. Where does it flow into? What's the kind of topography of it? Like, we never really talked about it. I've never fished it.
So the Nautilus Saga is a really interesting river. I don't mind talking about it too, and I think the reason why I don't mind talking about it is because it's actually an incredibly hard river to fish. Now you take a guide on a guided trip, we can make it very easy for you. So I'll say that. But but yeah,
very
I've seen the photos. There's proof.
It was very easy going with you those 2 times.
Yeah. But it's a tricky river to fish, and I think a lot of the reason is because of the sediment in the river. like it's a sandy bottom, and there are so many although
Okay.
you can attest to it, right? Is like there's lots of times where you're literally standing on about a foot of bank, and then you take one step, and it's a 10-foot drop off into a hole. And so,
Wow.
so it's extremely hard to walk and wade. And not only that, when we're taking the boats down, like I mentioned it earlier with some of the private property accesses that we have, there's a lot of private property, right? And whether when we're taking the boat down, we're allowed to do that, but it's the putting in and the pulling out, right? That we have these accesses through some property owners, and they kind of allow us to do our business. And so that's kind of, why like I don't necessarily fear about talking about it too much, because it's extremely hard just for someone to kind of go up and if they want to go and fish it on their own, right? Access is extremely limited.
Yeah.
If you can find access, good luck wading it. And that's kind of how it is too, right? And it's also like when you hear the Nottawasaga, one of the first things that you hear when it comes to steelheading too is like you can't fly fish that river. And I think that's extremely inaccurate. You can, you just gotta be really good, because it's tough, right? Especially if you're going by foot, because from where you're standing to where you're casting, it's so far. There's no back cast because it's all bush and bushwhacking, right? And this and that. It's a lot of center pin fishing, which we also offer too. But that's kind of what makes it so special and unique too, right? So, we do see some people on the weekends. You're going to see that with every river, especially in the prime time. But like come December and stuff, especially midweek, there's nobody out there because nobody can get to the river, right? So although like when we went out, I don't think we saw anybody, right? So I think there was one day we saw one boat or something like that out.
And the access, like, I mean, you don't have to, you're not driving super far from Toronto. Like, if we're going to talk about from Toronto, like, this river starts, it's a Georgian Bay tributary.
Yeah, right? Yeah. So it starts right in Nottawasaga Bay, in Collingwood. It comes right from Wasaga Beach. Or that's where it flows out into, I believe. And it starts up and around north of Orangeville. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I believe it's its headwaters.
That's crazy.
I believe it comes from groundwater. But don't quote me on that. I could be wrong. But yeah, like the Upper Nottawasaga is actually not too far from the Upper Credit. So it's a really.
So if somebody were to hire you for a day on the Nottawasaga, basically we're going to be in drift boats, and that's like the best way to do it and see it and have the best shot at fish.
Like I think the drift boats are something that we offer, and it's probably what we do about 90% of our steelheading business on. We can't take 3 people out. And
they're awesome boats.
Yeah.
The rafts.
Yeah, like we can take 2.
Oh, cool. Rafts,
we can take 2 clients in each boat, and whatnot. We do have multiple boats and other people working for us as well, so we can now accommodate bigger groups as well, as you can see, Aldo and whatnot. And yeah, it's probably the best way to access the fish. Like I said, it's a really hard river to walk and wade. So when you take the boat down, and also just fishing from the boat, it might be a little awkward at first, but once you kind of get the rhythm down fishing from the boat, you can just drop an anchor right there, fish away, and it's just spot after spot after spot after spot, right? It gets to the point where if you've got 25 pools in a stretch, you might only be able to fish 15 because you're catching fish or this and that, and you just can't hit everything, right? So
it's an interesting river in the sense that, like, I think Justin put it really well when we were out that day. He's like, I would just expect there to be fish everywhere because there's not like there's very, very few and far between as super clearly defined pools that run. It's not like the Grand River or any river really, like that has these really defined pools. It's a slow, meandering river. It's not huge, but it's not small either, like in terms of width. And then every once in a while, like there's a corner bend that's pretty obvious, or there's like a run that's pretty obvious. But for the most part, it's like when you stop, you're like, oh yeah, there's a little hump here, and this is where they hold. And if you were just to look at the river, you're like, what are you talking about?
I want to go.
There's nothing obvious on the surface to tell you what's going on.
Well, and that's the thing, right? There isn't a whole lot of definition to the river, right? When you're trying to find pools, you're looking for depth, shadows, color changes, and the whole 9 yards, right? The problem with the Naughty is that, you call it a problem, I think is one of the best things about it is always the constant clarity of it being almost always cloudy. It makes the fish, like it really helps us with the fish. It helps us kind of dial in bright patterns and stuff like that. Or they're always aggressive. They're always looking to take big bright stuff, which kind of makes it easy for us, just kind of keeping it to very simple patterns and stuff like that. But they can truly be anywhere. Like, are they going to be in the deeper pools? Are they going to be in the soft slots? And not only that, it's sometimes the deep pools don't look like deep pools, right? Because of all that cloudiness, because you can't really find, defining features of the river sometimes too, right? It's really interesting in the fact that it can actually be quite an easy river to read once you know how to read it. But if you don't know how to read it, it's damn near impossible. So it's really unique.
Well, here's what I'll say to our listeners. If this sounds like an interesting river that you want to fish, go with Jordan. Because Jordan, I didn't go, but I've heard nothing but amazing things from Aldo and Josh. And actually recently, another friend of the show, John Clip, who went out with you and was ecstatic about it. He said he had such a great time.
Yeah, and
so,
if
you're listening and you want to fish the naughty...
Yeah. Oh no.
On ice, right?
Yeah.
Ice
But
was an
I'm
ice
taking
problem.
him and Shelly back out again, and then he got a fish.
Oh, nice.
He got a fish literally on his first cast. So yeah, when I took him out,
honestly,
so
did I.
Yeah.
Which was the first time, first trip. It's a beautiful river to drift. I mean, you don't see there's only really the takeout where you start seeing houses, so you feel pretty wild. And for us, it was only. From Toronto, it was just barely over an hour to the access point.
And I think that
was awesome.
That's the key, right? Is it's really accessible from Toronto, and it is very private, right? That's the thing, right? Like unless you kind of know someone who's been on it or know how to tackle the river, it's extremely hard. But with that being said, it can be one of the best rivers around for steelheading too, right? Like there's some other rivers around that I fish that I love just as equally, but you're in your own little world out there, and it's fantastic, especially when when you're getting so many fish. It's just or even few fish or no fish when it happens.
Still a beautiful time.
That's the whole thing, right? As great as the lower credit can be for steelhead fishing, I tell all my clients, I said, when you book a trip with me, I understand that the Credit River can be even closer to you, and it might be something that you want to learn how to fish, but, we can never guarantee fish. So would you rather not catch fish floating the beautiful Nottawasaga, or would you rather not catch fish on the lower credit, right? Especially because especially because exactly, right? And it's also like when you come out too, right? It's we're teaching you techniques that you can not only apply to this river, but you can apply to every river too, right? So, and that's kind of the whole, and it also is just diversity, right? Like we were talking about, there's really not a river that's kind of like it. I've never seen so much sand and log in a river, and then the flick of a switch, it'd be nothing but rock, and then you flick the switch again, and it's nothing but slow and sandy, and it's really unique. It's got so many features about it, and it's probably
holds a lot of fish,
and it doesn't just hold steelhead, which people fish it for. That's the whole thing. There's lots of it's probably one of the most diverse river systems out there. The Grand's got lots of fish, and the Credit got a lot of fish too. But I've heard of pike and muskie and bass being caught out of the Nottawasaga in some of the same stretches that we fish for steelhead. So,
I mean, you could see how it could be a great bass river.
Yeah, exactly, right. Yeah. And the problem is, or I guess I shouldn't say the problem, it's so big, so it can be hard for people to kind of find where those fish are. And what a lot of people don't know is that a lot of those fish also winter over, too. And they're in the places where you'd never think, which is why you don't see them in the winter months. But if you know where to fish in the summer, you can have some great success too. So.
Yeah, it's a unique river.
There you go. That's a good tip. Go out. Hit the water.
Yeah.
Yep.
Learn.
Yeah.
You're talking.
And it's also I think it's a good
go
point, Jordan. Sorry. It's just a good point. If you're looking to book a guide day, it is kind of a treat because there isn't so much access, and it's a treat to go. It's a treat to go there because it's probably not a river I'm going to fish just very often. Unless I'm with you or at least I'm drifting it. We don't have this culture, this drift boat culture here. in southern
Yeah.
Ontario because a lot of our rivers are small.
Yeah.
You know, so it's one of those places where you can do that.
Yeah.
And it's super fun.
And there's nobody else
like,
that guides it.
Honestly, going
That's
out with a guide is a nice treat. Like, even if you're an experienced angler, like,
Oh, yeah.
you know, we'll talk Mitchie's Fishies 5, but go, because it's like you get the boat, you get the help and the company and everything else, and it's like it's
Yeah.
fun. Like, it's fun to do, even if you're not a beginner.
absolutely right. Like, and that's the thing. Like, I'd want to say that probably about 80% of our clients are first timers and beginners. But then we have 20% that who book with us all the time, right? So year after
awesome.
year, multiple times a year. They love the service, they love the trips, they love the water that we guide to, right? And I think that's something as well, just with kind of all the people that are with the company, and just being that we're so diverse, everyone has their own niche, and we can, whatever the client is looking for, we can always make sure that we're providing the best experience possible, right?
It's wicked. Well, there you go. Everybody check them out. A Perfect Drift, Jordan Pockett. Jordan, we're going to switch gears now and go over to Mitchie's Fishies 5, which is 5 questions we ask every guest on the show to round out the show. And here we go. We're going to start with number 1 of Mitchie's Fishies 5 for you. What is your favorite fish and why?
Why?
Yeah.
Why?
Cool whip.
If you had to pick a favorite fish,
I haven't heard of
Yeah,
Mitchie's
you
Fishies in
know-
a while.
And you know what's funny is, like, for how many times that I do hear him and I hear other people's, I couldn't tell you. Like, I mean, I'm going to tell you mine, but you know, you can never really think about them. But no, my favorite fish. See, that's a tough one. I don't know. Like, I think, like, if you're going to go from a fish that, like, I kind of got two. Like, I got an Atlantic salmon and a brown trout. So I guess, like, one touches the salt and one doesn't. I guess unless you're talking about sea run browns, but you know, I think like you hear brown trout all the time, and it's always for the same reasons, right? As I guess so with Atlantic salmon, as just like very mysterious fish. You know, you can always dial them in somewhat, but they're always leaving you scratching your head sometimes, and this and that. And I think with, like, the brown trout, it's just everyone is different. They always are so unique, the patterns, the color schemes, and everything, and also the nastiness of the fish too, right? And I think it's also the same with, like, Atlantic salmon, but it's probably got to be Atlantic salmon. But, like, and I think it's just because, you know, that's a fish that you'll truly never figure out. And what also, like, a lot like, when they're coming into the river, you know, not a lot of people understand the journey that those fish have to take, right? Like, a lot of these fish, especially when, you know, you're fishing in Cape Breton or whatnot, like, these fish are spending 2 years going around Iceland and Greenland and then coming back into the river, and they're not feeding for 8 months once they enter to spawn and then go back, right? So kind of like the lifestyle that they have to endure all the time, and then to just on any given day just be like, I'm going to go up and take that size 10 Undertaker today for some whatever apparent reason, right?
Totally.
Like, it just, and that's the whole thing. And I think, like, for me too, like, dry fly fishing for Atlantic salmon is something that I primarily choose to do. I rarely swing wets for them. I do a lot of bomber fishing for them. So so I think that's why, like, I love it too. So it's
good fish.
So cool. No, that's a great answer.
Yeah.
They are such a mysterious, magical fish, you know, to connect with one. It's like there's nothing else like it. You know?
And, you know, like, pound for pound on a single,
especially on a
stock,
bomber.
like, there's not much that beat it. And, you know, like, there's some fish that I haven't caught that, you know, I'm sure could probably top it, you know, on, like, some bucket list trips. But I guess you'll just have to ask me.
Still, you know.
Yeah.
Changing, exactly. I love it. Well, that kind of leads to the next question: is if you could fish anywhere in the world right now, assuming it's the best time of year to go there, where would you go and why?
You know what? It's probably the Marguerite, and it's just
Nice.
it's just I haven't been back there for I haven't been back there for 2 years now because of COVID, and it's something that, like, I really want to go back and do. Like, I'm dying at it, or I'm dying to get back, and it's like a home away from home for me, you know. It's just it's some of the most peaceful time that I have throughout the year, and just doing the thing that you love every day. Like, even though waking up at 4 a.m. sucks, and then going to bed at 11 and then getting like these like 4-hour naps
God.
to go fishing for eight days in a row. Like it's a
Right.
it's a grind, but and that's the whole thing. It's
Yeah.
just it's some people love steelheading to embrace the cold and endure the winter and all that stuff. But for me,
Yeah.
when you take the combination of the fish that you're going after and the routines that you kind of got to do to go after them, it's just I think the Margarie's the place for me. So
Yeah.
yeah.
That's awesome. I love
Yeah.
that. It's great. It's nice to hear like a destination like that for once, not like
Yeah, it's not like Seychelles.
Seychelles or something like super crazy.
and like don't get me wrong, like that's something that
sure.
like I think for me, like my biggest bucket list trip
Yeah.
right now is billfish on the fly. Like I really want to go down to Mexico and get some marlin
Oh, yeah.
or sailfish and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be wild.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, so I think
be
that's probably one
wild.
of the
That'd be
biggest
awesome.
things for me. Don't know when I'll check it off. Hopefully sometime soon in the next couple of
Yeah.
years. I've been saving up for it, but
hell
yeah.
Yeah.
Love it. Love it. Okay, number 3 is, what is your best fishing memory or one of your favorite fishing memories ever?
Yeah. That's a tough. That's another tough one too, because like I've got a lot of memorable fish. Like big browns on dries and stuff like that.
Yep.
I'd probably got to say it would be the brookie from Labrador. My first.
I
fish
knew
on the
you were
fly
going to
rod.
say that.
It would be, but it's got to be my first Atlantic. When I was 12 years old.
Nice.
Yeah, my grandfather had just passed and from cancer, and so it was my first salmon. It was on the Marguerite. I think it was about 12 pounds too. Origin white bomber, standing
nice
up on a
fish.
high bank. It's like slow take too. It was the end of August. Temps were sitting around like 68, 69 degrees Fahrenheit, like kind of warm. They just got a bit of rain. And I had fished for 2 weeks straight, no fish at that point. And my uncle just gave me the rod, and it was like the last chance before hopping on the plane, or like taking the shuttle to go back home later that day, before hopping on the plane. And yeah, it was just like the take lasted. It felt for me like 10 seconds, because as you saw the whole fish come from the
That's
bottom
cool.
to the top. And then
Yeah.
so it's probably got to be that, especially like just my grandfather and my uncle were the two that got me into fishing, and then just kind of getting that right after him passing and all that. That's probably my best moment for
That's
me.
magic.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Sounds amazing.
Well illustrated.
I love it. I love it.
I
It's
pictured
great.
the whole scene.
Yeah.
yeah.
There you go.
It's the brook pool on the Marguerite. If we ever get down, I'll point it out, like picture by picture.
You better believe it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a
awesome.
Oh,
fantastic
we've got to get to
spot.
the Margarine.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, number 4, Mitchy's Fishies 5
Yeah.
is, why do you fly fish? What do you get out of fly fishing?
I get everything out of fly fish. I think the thing with fly fishing for me is it literally gives me everything. It gives me joy, it gives me love, it gives me happiness, it gives me heartbreak, it gives me disaster, it gives me everything. Whether it be guiding or fishing for myself, it's an escape for me for sure. And it's also just something that, when you get really, really good at something, or when you feel like you're really, really good at something, you just care about it that much more. It consumes you, it absorbs you, you focus everything about it, right? And I think that was something that I kind of felt from a young age, and never really stopped, right? And that's the whole thing. Like, it went from just being something that I love to do every day, just going out and fishing on my own, to now, loving and doing it every day as a career, right? And in a way, like, it didn't like save my life, but like it's become my life in a sense, right? And and like I said, like it gives you everything, right? I see all the joys from my clients, and whenever I get big fish for myself, and then but you like there's been times where it's like you spend 2 hours over a rising brown, throw 25 flies over it, and then you finally takes and you break it off on the hook set, and you want to snap your rod over your knee, right? Like as much as those suck, and as much as you want to cry yourself to sleep that night, like those those moments, just make me appreciate the sport and just keep me coming back, right? It just fuels me, keeps me going. So just the whole
good.
consumption of it is kind of really why I do it.
Yeah, I love it.
It's good. It's a good answer.
Well, it's good. I'm always interested to hear from guides and people like yourself why you fly fish, because it's like is your entire life. Like it is not just a fun thing to do. Like it's your bread and butter.
Right. And I think like to the guiding point is like when I see clients, whether it be hook their first fish or their 10,000th fish, they light up just the same, especially when you show them something new to acquire that fish. And that's the whole thing is, right? Like you like as a guide, like if the rod's in your hands, you got a pretty good chance at getting it. But putting it in somebody else's hands, telling them what and teaching them what they need to do, that they didn't, things that they didn't know before to get the results that they want. There's no better feeling than that too, right?
I think that's why I like fishing with. Part of the reason I like fishing with Josh so much is that guy, because that guy slays.
Oh yeah.
Guy always has big fish in the net, and every time it's just like it was like the first one he's ever caught. He's always stoked. Yeah. He's always, if he misses a fish, he's jumping up and down and like oh my god, did you see that? Like I love that enthusiasm. It must be awesome to see that
Doesn't
kind
get
of
old.
enthusiasm all the time with clients. It must be awesome.
Oh yeah, like, and especially like there was two guys from South America this year that I took out. They were both from Venezuela.
Cool.
Yeah, and never fished before. I took them out center penny, so not fly fishing, but they both hooked and landed 11 steelhead. Yeah. That day. And, actually, I was also telling Aldo this. I took a blind man out earlier this year too.
I heard this story.
Yeah. So we were
blind.
We were swinging flies on the big head. It was fantastic. He was fantastic too. His buddy hooked up in a fish. We didn't get him anything. They went out later that day and they actually got some fish though too. So yeah, and he
Amazing.
was and like we're talking like fully blind, but that it was really inspiring to see too, because this was a man who didn't let anything stop him. Been skydiving, been whitewater rafting, never tried fly fishing, wanted to do it. I think also just like his desire to learn all these new techniques, just like he really excelled that day. I had him swinging flies, 45-degree angle, tight line, no bellies, like, and just kind of given his commands of cast forward, back, whatever it be. And so that was pretty special this year too. So
amazing.
That's crazy.
A good standout moment.
Literally, you were somebody's eyes.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Super cool.
Exactly. So,
yeah. Awesome. I love it. Okay, number 5 of Mitch's Fishies 5. Last one is, what fly pattern represents you best and why? If you were a fly, what would you be?
They're all gonna be Atlantic salmon responses, which is funny enough. I never thought it'd be that way, but it's got to be a bomber. But it's got to be with the double calf tail wing at the front with a single on the back. I don't do none of this, single calf tail on the front. I don't do any of that nonsense unless it's a Smurf. I've caught a few fish on like that with the Smurf, but I like my two winged bombers. It's just
specific color.
Orange and white, or peach.
Orange and white,
peach.
nice classic.
Like white deer hair with some peach hackle, but they got to be like peach Kool-Aid dyed. Yeah, special.
Yeah.
And that's if anybody knows anyone that's fishies, like we got weird things about us that for some reason we can't explain, but we just do these things a certain way, and we're not superstitious, but we kind of are at the same time, right? But,
exactly.
Totally.
Yeah, no, it's got to be a bomber. I think it's just like, it's a very unique thing, and it's something that I love, and I feel like it also represents kind of like how I tackle fly fishing, and just it's also it presents a lot of techniques that I like to kind of transfer into like the own things that I do fishing, whether it be any method too, right? Like what some people don't also understand is that whether you're indicator for nymphing for steelhead or dry fly fishing for trout, there's a lot of transferable techniques and stuff like that. So I think that fly just has done everything for me and set me up to kind of where I am now. So yeah.
And who doesn't want to catch an Atlantic salmon on a dry fly?
Yeah, and that's the whole thing. It's like, because they can sip it or they can smack it, and it's great either way, right? So.
And it's called a bomb. It's so cool.
It's the bomb.
Oh yeah,
it's the bomb.
Coolest thing ever, man. It's the bomb.
Yeah, and like I'll fish
it.
like some guys fish really small ones. I'll fish almost like big, like size 2-aught cigar shaped bombers. Yeah.
Wow.
Like some really,
That's a
some
big
really
fly.
big stuff. Yeah. Yeah, for some Atlantics.
Jeez.
Yeah, everyone, and like, don't get me wrong, but and then it's weird. Like, I'll go and I'll swing a size 10 Undertaker, and so, and then
Sure.
that's the whole thing, right? But
Yeah.
you know, I'm a big,
Hey,
I'm a
it's
very
fun.
big fly, big fish kind of guy. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
I dig
Yeah.
it.
Adis is the
Whether it
opposite.
be-
He's little
Amazing.
fly,
Those
big
are-
fish.
yeah, you know, like that's a
I
whether
just-
it be streamers, dries, nymphs, or swinging. I'm a, and don't get me
Yeah.
wrong. There's times to go small, and you got to recognize those times, and or else it's gonna suck.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
usually the big stuff's coming out first. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Same. I
Oh
feel
yeah,
the same
it's
way.
fun. You could throw something big.
yeah,
why not?
exactly, right.
I love it.
Yeah.
Amazing, Jordan. Now's your time to plug.
Shameless
Please tell
plug
people
time.
where they can
Shameless
find you.
Yeah.
Where can
Plug.
people
Yeah.
find
How
you?
can people go fishing
How
with you?
Yeah.
Can people book you? Where?
Yeah.
What's your Instagram account?
Yeah, so I guess like my personal Instagram's just at on the fly rod. You can find the company page at, I believe it's Ontario River Guide on Instagram. And if you want to book a trip, you can either find us online at aperfectdrift.com, or you can email us at ontarioguide@gmail.com. I'm on the email all the time right now, so you know our kind of goal is to always get back to people as quick as possible. So if you don't hear with us within 10 hours, something's wrong. So
Something ain't right.
Or you're slaying on the river.
yeah,
One of the other.
yeah, or that's the thing too, right? I'm out with a client or whatever it might be. But yeah, no, I guess like a couple of thank yous too would be, I guess you guys too. You know, I've done some work with you guys over this year. That's kind of helped me out a lot. So I'd like to thank you guys for that, and especially the podcast too. I got my buddy Justin Haratunian, who busts my ass and pushes me every day to get out, and yeah, so yeah,
Justin's awesome. He came on the ice fishing trip
Yeah.
last weekend.
Yeah.
What a great dude.
Yeah.
Justin's stellar guy.
Yeah.
Also, you want the best owl photos in the game. Go look him up. Yeah, he's got
Totally.
a lot of wildlife photography. It's
Oh,
like
shots fired to Dave Wallace.
No, Dave's got them too. Dave, yeah, they're both top tier, and whatnot. And then also just like my family and Graham, and like if it wasn't for my uncle and my grandfather kind of starting me into fly fishing, never would have been here. And if it wasn't for my dad contacting Graham when I was younger and taking me out on all the endless trips with Graham as a kid, I wouldn't be here. And if it wasn't for Graham himself, so yeah.
Awesome.
Everything's
Amazing.
just kind of
Always
lined
good
up right.
to be
Jordan, we're
grateful.
stoked.
Yeah, exactly, right? So everything
Yeah.
just kind of lined up right, and yeah, there's no looking back now.
No looking back now.
No, we're excited to see where you take it. Really
Yeah.
excited to see where
Yeah.
you take it, man.
It's cool.
And it was great to chat. It was great.
Yeah.
to
Yeah,
chat.
thanks,
And
Jordan. You
hopefully
have to. Yilma and Mitch have
We
to
should get
spend
it on
a
the
day
water
on the
just
water.
for
Yeah.
Yeah,
Dates
just for
are booking
fun.
up quick, so you want to get out there. We'll plan something now, and there's a whole bunch of trips that I'm thinking about taking here in some off seasons for us too. So
Okay.
we can
Yeah, we need when you get a free day too. Let's
That's-
just go catch carp or
exactly
something.
right, exactly. So
I don't know,
Yeah,
man. That's so
awesome.
hard. Matt, that was a tough day.
yeah, but it's
I'll
it's
go again.
rewarding, right? And yeah, no, I was talking to Matt earlier. He's just saying the weather was just off all last year, just like cold fronts coming in and stuff like that, and
Yeah.
just like weather shifts and changes, and just really picky fish last year too. So,
Yeah. Yeah,
hopefully
totally.
this year will be better, and especially with some warmer temps in the lakes, possibly. Could help
Oh, don't get me
us out,
wrong.
so.
He had 2 on by the time we got there, but but
Yeah, that's
Fishy
the
guy.
way it goes. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's got it dialed in. so-
Amazing.
yeah.
No, absolutely.
Well, everybody listening, thank you so much, Jordan, for coming on, and check the show notes to see where you can book Jordan. Jordan,
Thank you very much,
you.
guys.
Yeah,
How you
Jordan,
doing, man?
thanks.
Thanks, Jordan.